with a new season coming along, there's also new chances for Spike to have an episode that gives him proper justice. And I don't mean those episodes where he's a side character or he acts as a voice of reason and or foil to the main character that the episode actually focuses on. I mean a straight-up Spike-centric episode where he is the center of the conflict and he comes up with a solution that satisfies everybody at the end. My wish came true! A Spike episode that delivers good service to his character and did not in any way lead to mixed reactions in the fandom. Even past analysis thinks that it's okay! Gauntlet of Fire is the first Spike episode of the season, and despite what we normally expect from these types of episodes, this one turned out to be surprisingly pretty good. But would I say that it's the best Spike episode? I'm not sure. Spike's scales are beginning to glow, and the only known reason is that the current Dragon Lord is summoning all dragons to the Dragonlands. With Rarity and Twilight at his side, Spike learns that the Dragon Lord Torch is seeking a successor to rule the dragons in his place. And the only dragon who can retrieve the Bloodstone Scepter from a Flame Kano will be able to prove themselves qualified for the job. Knowing that other dragons won't have friendly intentions if they end up becoming rulers, Spike tries to get the scepter to prevent someone reckless from completing the challenge. Along the way, he comes across the Dragon Lord's daughter, Princess Ember, who also wants to retrieve the scepter for her own reasons, though they're not as ill-mannered as the other dragons. So the race is on as Spike and Ember join forces to retrieve the scepter before Garble can retrieve power for himself and use it to destroy pony culture. Firstly, I have to say that the episode has a pretty good setup. Instead of just being forced to go into this competition against his will, Spike is actually given the choice to not compete. But Spike is still given a good motivation to stay in the competition when he first decided that it wasn't good for him. He wants to make sure that power over all dragons doesn't fall into the wrong hands. And even knowing that winning the challenge would mean that he would have to stay in the Dragonlands and be separated from his companions, he still wants to do it because he wants to protect something that's important to him. It makes him noble and more grown up as he has been showing in the series. And all of this is what gives the episode a good setup. Instead of its plot feeling forced, it's moved in a way that motivates the characters, and the decisions that they make are sensible for the circumstances they've been placed in. Seeing Ember team up with Spike gives her character a chance to shine, and she also leaves a good impression. She's not self-serving like the other dragons, though she can be stubborn and selfish. But her reasons for wanting to be in the challenge are understandable, as well as relatable. She's driven to prove her worthiness to her father and the other dragons. And throughout the challenges, she demonstrates a brave and indomitable spirit. She also goes through a learning experience by slowly opening herself up to others and adapting to behaviors that dragons aren't normally associated with. It's done progressively in a sense that's natural to her, so it doesn't feel out of context with her other characteristics. In the end, she learns about a new type of communication, and it's beneficial with her as a new ruler of dragons. In the future, this can hopefully clear up the stereotype that all dragons are selfish bullies, which doesn't offer a lot of interesting facts to learn about their culture. There's also a good sense of symbolism with the teamwork between Spike and Ember. Spike has technique and strategy, while Ember has strength and physical prowess. They both excelled in their own areas, but the challenge called for elements from both sides. By working together, they were able to balance out their strengths and weaknesses, which makes their victory feel a lot more strong. Another cool thing is how the episode appropriately fits Rarity and Twilight into their supporting roles. They don't do anything to overshadow the events of the story, and they cheer on Spike as they were meant to. It would have been easy for them to use their magic to help Spike win, which would have just come across as a lazy writing decision. Instead, they take the sensible route and just use disguises to stay close to him. Garble's ill-mannered nature is way more nasty, making him a straight-up villain who seeks revenge against the ponies by completely destroying them.
So Does that technically make him racist? If so, instant jerk!
And surprisingly, that actually made me like his character a bit more. His dialogue is a lot less annoying this time, with some more clever backhanded comments and even coming across as a troll, which makes what he says and does kinda funny. It's not much, but it's a lot better than in Dragon Quest where he just came across as a typical high school thug. And hell, even the episode's humor has some pretty memorable strides, with slapstick, exchanges between the cast, and even screwing us out of what could have been a Celestia episode. Someday, Sunbutt. Someday. Admittedly, for this being a Spike episode, it doesn't really develop his character. He is given good characterization, but he doesn't develop in a sense that he learns anything or evolves in some form. If anything, Ember developed more than Spike, which, yeah, was supposed to be the point of the episode. Through Spike's help, she warms up to a new way of thinking that dragons aren't normally used to, which in turn will result in better relationships between ponies and dragons. But at the same time, it kinda feels like Spike got glanced over in his own episode. I just think back to previous Spike-centric episodes, and even if the fandom's reaction to them were mixed, he still learned some nice morals, and something about his character felt like it changed. Heck, even some of the bad Spike episodes ended with him learning something, which felt a lot more like character development than what he went through here. I guess if you just really want to say that the episode was more about Spike teaching something to someone else than him learning something for himself, that is true to what happened. But personally, I just think that it's far from the perfect episode for him. It's still good, but it's not the best growth that I've seen for the character. Also, for the first episode that feels like the main characters are traveling to the Dragonlands to learn more about dragon culture, there isn't a lot of exploration to be found. We still get to see some nice backgrounds, and we do get to see some diversity with the designs of the dragons, but in the sense of actually exploring this part of the world, the episode doesn't offer something like that. Nothing is really learned or discovered about the dragons and their homeland, which makes this visit to this new area that we haven't seen before feel a bit underwhelming. There is a line of dialogue at the end that states that Twilight will learn more about dragons through written letters with Ember, but at the same time, it also feels like a cop-out. If everything that Twilight is going to learn about dragons is going to happen off-screen, then how are we supposed to learn more about dragons? Maybe this will be touched upon in the future, but at this time it doesn't feel like the exploration theme of the episode was accomplished. And if you really want to get nitpicky, there are several things that don't really make sense. Like, where are the bigger dragons supposed to be? Why are they only showing the smaller ones? You'd think there would be more dragons, so why are there so few of them? Why is Spike able to push a huge boulder if the episode was supposed to showcase his lack of strength, which was supposed to support his team up with Ember? If Twilight says that dragons just do what the Dragon Lord tells them, then wouldn't it contradict the times that we've seen them acting on their own in the past? If Torch is supposed to be their Dragon Lord, then why wasn't he present in the dragon migration from Dragon Quest? I know that the writers weren't thinking this far ahead, but you still end up asking these types of questions. Maybe I'm just grasping at straws, but those are the things that came to my mind when I was watching this. But even if it's not perfect, and even if it's not as good as its potential was making it out to be, the episode still tells a good story, and it creates a lot of potential for future plot points. I can understand where some people may be coming from when they say that they didn't get into the episode very much because there isn't a lot to be blown away by with it, except for the fact that it just takes us to a new location. But I still like it for what it was, and I imagine that a lot of people who saw it felt the same way. Gauntlet of Fire is far from my favorite Spike episode, but it's still a very good one, and I look forward to seeing it again sometime soon. MisAnthro Pony, over and out.